Hi, this is Rosalinda, and welcome to Viewpoint, coming from beautiful SKC campus from KSKC Studios in Pablo, Montana. And I'm just really happy to be here today with two special guests from NCBI. This is Tyler Tschida, and this is Ekoo Beck. I just want to thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you guys traveling all the way up here from the Missoula area.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. I really appreciate that. I know that she worked with Heidi Wallace as well, who is the Director of Youth Programs at NCBI in Missoula. So she's a wonderful person, and I just really appreciate the work that NCBI does in this topic of bullying, in which is what we're going to be talking about today in schools. And so I just want to say thank you. Welcome to Viewpoint, and I hope that you enjoy this as much as I'm enjoying this. Tell me, how did you get involved with NCBI and become a peer leader? Because you are peer leaders, correct?
Yeah. For me, I didn't know what NCBI was, and I got a letter from them in the mail. I was nominated by a teacher to go to their summer Train the Trainer camp. And I went, and I really enjoyed it. I love the work that NCBI does, and I was kind of hooked after that.
That's great. How about you, Ekoo?
They have a middle school program, which is called Respect Club. And when I was in 7th grade, I joined the Respect Club. And so the year after 8th grade, the summer before my freshman year, I attended the training camp. And I got trained as a trainer, and then the next year I started doing different trainings in Missoula and around the state with Heidi, and now I travel with her. And I also went to a national week-long training event in DC this summer to further my leadership. So.
That's great. So NCBI really is able to offer leadership skills, which is wonderful, and mentorship skills, it sounds like. And you know, in talking about school and everything, this topic, this is a sequel to a first taping that we had with Heidi about this important topic, and it's really an important topic to me and to lots of people about bullying in schools and how harmful that is to other people and the effects that it can have, and to where people end up killing themselves or creating harm that is beyond repair in other people's lives. And so can you tell me in your own words, what are the issues around bullying and mistreatment that you notice in your school?
Well, I think Hellgate is like most nationwide, you know, it has homophobia, it does have racism towards Native Americans especially, and I think those are the two main issues in our school, unless you have more to add.
I just think a main thing is we're kind of seen as in Missoula as the accepting school, and I think a lot of that is really true. But at the same time, we kind of have this reputation for being really accepting, and that's not always the case sometimes. We do have a lot of bullying, homophobia, and racism, I'd say, are the top two. So
because of that view as us as the accepting school, we also get kind of pushed under the rug, you know. People don't think that there's bullying in Hellgate in comparison to the other schools.
I'll be darned. You know, I wonder why that misconception is out there about the Hellgate school. And that's a really interesting topic, and it's almost like I've heard it from other people in saying that Missoula is a very accepting location for diversity, but sometimes it's not as accepting as we would like it to be in certain ways. And so I kind of hear that of what's happening with your school as well. What are the skills you've learned through NCBI that's helped you be an ally to others out there?
I think the main thing NCBI tries to teach is just kind of acknowledgement of other people's feelings. You know, you're not really going to try to shift another person's attitude towards someone else if you kind of react in a angry kind of emotional kind of way. You know, if you try to acknowledge where they're coming from, you can kind of get a better understanding and try to get the problem at the roots.
It's helped me learn people's stories and know how to learn people's stories. So it helps with argumentative situations where there's like an offensive and a defensive. It kind of neutralizes the skills that it teaches you. So it teaches you to kind of take a step back and sometimes put your feelings aside if necessary, depending on what has been said towards you or said towards the group, and then get at the root of that abuse and that mistreatment.
And you know, when we talk about mistreatment and abuse, I know that through my years of growing up, and I mentioned this in the previous taping, is that I was discriminated and harassed as being different through all of my schooling, and it was difficult for me, and it was quite difficult for me. And there were several times that I wondered, how am I going to get through this? Because there wasn't that support there. So I'm happy that there are allies like both of you out there and NCBI that people can look to and be able to draw from in times of crisis like that. What programs exist at Hellgate that prevent bullying and harassment?
There is the NCBI. We do the trainings for all the freshmen at Hellgate. So I think this year is the first well, they've been doing it for a while, so all of the grades have been trained by NCBI, so all of the kids should have been trained by NCBI.
I think it started right after my grade. I was the last grade that didn't have that done to us.
So we have NCBI trainings. We do have things like Respect Club. It isn't affiliated with NCBI in high school, but there still is a Respect Club. There's GSA. I think you're more involved with that than I am.
And what's GSA?
It's Gay Street Alliance.
Gay Street Alliance, okay.
So that's helpful. There's also, of course, the counselors and teachers as references. And I believe that there are a few teachers at Hellgate who are NCBI trained, and most of them do attend the freshman trainings. So
that's great. So with these trainings that you mentioned, do you think that more training needs to happen within different schools? What do you think about that?
I definitely think it's a huge issue. Bullying goes, all schools nationwide. And Big Sky and Hellgate are two schools that do it in Missoula, but Sentinel hasn't really yet, but we're still working on that, and we hope to get NCBI into Sentinel.
That's great. I was reading an article out of The Advocate recently, and this article said that the New Jersey Republican Governor Chris Christie signed a bill to establish a statewide anti-bullying law. That was the beginning part of January. And so faculty and staff would be required to report all incidents of bullying inside and outside of school, and administrators who do not act on reports of bullying would be disciplined. Furthermore, students who harass other students would be punished in their actions. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm not sure if it is the answer, though, because I really feel like something like NCBI needs to be implemented in most schools so that not only do you punish the bullies, but you can help the bullies understand how they hurt people, because just punishing someone will not change the actions.
That's a great message. What did you think of this with Governor Christie?
I actually really agree with Ekoo. I think I do think it's a pretty important step to take to punish, bullying, but also try to get in there and shift people's attitudes so bullying doesn't even take place in the first place. And
it's a good step just acknowledging it too. So
yeah. At least they're making a note to pay more attention to it.
When I interviewed Heidi prior to this, and we had talked about how was that in getting the people who were doing the bullying in part of the clubs, and I remember her saying that it was positive. They actually had a really great positive response from it. And so, I think that's a great message, and that's really good that you mentioned that. I appreciate that. What do schools need to do to prevent bullying and violence? What do you think of that?
I think they need resources, and I think they need to, at a younger age, start teaching the kids how to react to different situations. Because one of the hardest problems for me before NCBI was when I heard something offensive about a group or about a friend or about me, I would react right away with, you sentences, like, I can't believe that you're saying this. Whereas you need to step back and kind of think like, or when you're speaking, use more I statements. So I feel like the best way is just to train the kids, to teach the kids how to react to different situations, and also to train the teachers.
To train the teachers.
And the administrators.
Very good. How do you think that cyberbullying, or how people have Facebook and MySpace and Twitter and all of these other ones? I have a Facebook account, but I've heard and I've seen and I can see how bullying can happen in the cyber in social networking world out there, and how sometimes that can carry into school in so many ways, because everyone almost has a Facebook, everyone almost has a MySpace account. How do you answer questions when it relates to cyberbullying when that happens?
So,
I'm
a little confused by the question.
Sure. How would you how would you deal if a person came up to you and said, I'm being bullied by this guy online or by this girl online, and I don't know how to handle it?
That's a good question.
It's a really hard situation. I think in that case, you really need to have a talk with the person who is the perpetrator and find out the underlying weaknesses, because generally bullying comes from either a hurt person or a really self-conscious person.
At NCBI, we say hurt people hurt people.
And so you need to find out what that ouch or that hurt is beneath, and why they're going off and, saying things about someone online. Because, if it's the kind of person who wouldn't say it in real life, then it's a lot harder to figure that out.
It can be a lot harder for sure. What does the school, the staff, the educators do to create an inclusive learning community at your schools?
They do attend. For me, it's just a lot of them attend the NCBI trainings, so a lot of them have the skills. There are a few teachers, of course, there's always a few people who are the exception to that, but I think the best way to create an inclusive environment is just to let your kids know that anything is okay, like any denomination, any sector, any walk of life is okay in your classroom. And I think the easiest way to do that is to kind of incorporate it into the curriculum in some ways. So to just make it a much more diverse class.
I agree with you. I think that part of it is also from a student handbook issue, and saying that that we won't discriminate based on sexuality, gender, race, all of that stuff as well. I think that some of these issues are kind of, it starts from the top down in so many ways, and so I think that also with the work that you all do is helping to change people's perspectives of what bullying is, and thinking of what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. And so it can be very, very interesting in school boards, for an example, in trying to pass those kind of issues at school boards. But I want to thank you so much for being here, and we're going to take a short break. So, and we'll be right back with Ekoo and Tyler.